DDM History of Africa Project. General History of Africa. A pioneering corpus sponsored by UNESCO covering the history of the entire African continent. The General History of Africa, GHA, is a pioneering corpus, unparalleled in its ambition to cover the history of the entire African continent, since the appearance of human beings to contemporary challenges faced by Africans and their diasporas in the world. It is a history that no longer leaves the pre-colonial period in the shadows and that deeply integrates the destiny of Africa into that of humanity by highlighting its relations with the other continents and the contribution of African cultures to the general progress of humanity. About the project. In 1964, UNESCO launched the elaboration of the General History of Africa with a view to remedy the general ignorance on Africa's history. The challenge consisted of reconstructing Africa's history, freeing it from racial prejudices ensuing from slave trade and colonization, and promoting an African perspective. UNESCO therefore called upon the then utmost African and non-African experts. These experts' work represented 35 years of cooperation between more than 230 historians and other specialists, and was overseen by an international scientific committee which comprised 2/3 of Africans. The collection. The complete collection is published in 8 volumes. All volumes are richly illustrated with maps, charts, figures and diagrams, and a selection of black and white photographs. The texts, for the most part, are fully annotated and there is an extensive bibliography and index. In recent years, UNESCO has embarked on the preparation and drafting of 3 new volumes of the GHA, volumes 9x and 11. 3 new volumes, 9x, 11. In order to update and complete the collection, UNESCO has embarked on the preparation and drafting of 3 new volumes of the GHA. This work aims to update the collection in the light of the latest social, political and archaeological developments, among others, on the continent, Volume 9, to map and analyze the various African diasporas and their contributions to modern societies and to Africa's emancipation and development, Volume X, and to contribute to the analysis of new challenges Africa and its diasporas are currently facing, and new opportunities that are open to them, Volume 11. The preparation and drafting of these 3 new volumes constitutes a pivotal scientific production by UNESCO for a better understanding of African history and historiography. In this respect, it represents a major contribution on the part of the organization to the International Decade for People of African Descent, 2015 to 2024, proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly. It also responds to the initiatives taken by a number of Latin American and Caribbean governments to enhance and promote their African heritage. Global Africa, an innovative concept. Until now, Africa and its diasporas have often been presented as distinct groups, separated by oceans, that have had only sporadic contact during brief historical moments. The writers of the new volumes of the General History of Africa wish to break with this binary and simplistic perspective of relations between Africa and its diasporas. By introducing the concept of Global Africa, the International Scientific Committee wishes to propose an innovative reinterpretation of these connections. This concept makes it possible to understand the history of relations between Africans and people of African descent as an interconnected and continuous process, comprising the circulation of people, knowledge, know-how, and cultural productions, and whose matrix is the African heritage. The concept also makes it possible to go beyond the issue of race and focus on Africa's multifaceted presence in different regions of the world and the diversity of its influences on other cultures. Thus, geographically, the African presence is no longer seen simply from the perspective of the Atlantic world, Europe, the Americas, and the Caribbean, but in a truly globalized way, taking into account the diasporas of the Indian Ocean, the Near and Middle East, and Asia. Historically, this presence has been considered over time since ancient times to illustrate the different waves of outflows from Africa, African explorations and expansions outside the continent, mass deportations of Africans to different regions of the world by trafficking, displacements caused by colonization, post-colonial migrations, etc. In addition to its usefulness in reflecting the diversity of trajectories and the continuity of relationships, the concept of Global Africa also provides a better understanding of the aspirations of new generations in Africa and its diasporas to contribute to the African Renaissance and the construction of a 21st-century Pan-Africanism.